Okay, then let me share my screen. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, doctor, is visible.
Okay, that's good. So when we met in Masaka last week, we had an introduction to what research is. And we basically looked at what research is, and then we also looked at types or categories of research. Now we want to delve a little bit further and also look at research philosophy, because it also, again, categorizes research and guides the way someone gets into research itself. As promised last week, I had promised to upload some articles, which I've just done, about 4 articles onto Moodle. I hope all of you have enrolled into Moodle. Did we all manage to log in into Moodle? Did we manage to enroll? Let me just see those who may have managed.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I see quite a number of participants. So I don't think it should be a problem. So if there's anyone who hasn't enrolled, kindly do. It will help us a lot. Now, let's get back to our course unit. So I have also uploaded a few articles, and I think that should be our beginning, the discussion point when we meet next Thursday on those articles, to see where you feel they lie in terms of categories of research. So let's continue getting further into research, what it is, and the major concepts of research. So let's look at research philosophy. Here, we need to understand that do we know what philosophy is? Do you know what somebody means when they talk about the word philosophy? Do we know what the word philosophy means?
Doctor,
Yes, please.
philosophy is the study of fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, and reality.
And reality, yes. That is the standard Google answer. But it's basically, others say, here I've seen another, it is the study of how we understand our existence and how we come to know what is real, good, and true. Yeah? If we think about it, like we as IT people, it may seem very far-fetched, but in reality, if you don't have a philosophical look at life, you can end up being lost. Have you heard of people who have had, they call it an existentiality crisis? Have you ever heard of that question? Have you heard of people talk about that? Has anyone ever heard of that somebody has an existentiality crisis? Have you ever had a term like that, a terminology like that? People talk about it. We hear of people having a midlife crisis. people who reach their middle ages, like my age, and then they start saying, life has passed me by, I missed this stage, and then you start seeing them behaving in a funny way. Have you ever heard of someone say, people talk about someone having an existentiality crisis? Have you ever heard of that? Anyone?
Yes, I ever do so.
What do you think? What do you think happens when somebody has an existentiality crisis?
Sometimes it comes with the problems like short-sightedness, backache, and uh, a lot. Maybe other problems are medical.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Most of the time, and someone with an existentiality crisis, it's a mental issue. Not just mental. I mean, I don't want to assume someone is mad, but take it in a situation. Take an example. Somebody goes through a crisis, a crisis in their life. Maybe somebody has a wife, children, and maybe the wife leaves him, the children walk away from them, walk away from him, or somebody loses a job. Something traumatic happens to them, and then people start asking themselves the question of, why am I here? Why am I alive? What is the purpose of me being alive? So that's an existentiality crisis where somebody is questioning why they are alive, especially when a tragic comes into their lives. So philosophy is one of the things that helps us understand reality. It helps us understand reality, and we find philosophy in, especially in religion. We find philosophy in professionalisms like psychology, because that's all to do with the soul, where the will, conscious, and the will, conscious, and what's the three things that make up a soul? It is the free will, conscious, and I forget. I'll try and remember. But anyway, the philosophy basically helps us answer that. So we've had philosophical thinkers. You've heard of people like Socrates and Aristotle. Socrates asked a question: how do I know that I exist? How do I know that you exist? Maybe I'm just a figment of my imagination. How do I know? You see people who run mad, and somebody says, I'm an elephant, I'm this, that their reality changes. Or where you see people, they, instead of seeing a person, they see a demon. Their reality has changed. So the question is, how do I also know I'm not delusional? How can I call somebody else delusional? How do I know? And I remember Socrates concluded by saying, I think, therefore I am. If I'm able to think, therefore I exist. And so many others. There are so many philosophical thoughts. Now, research, like any academic discipline, also has philosophies that are followed. Okay? As a researcher who is going out to seek information, there is a certain philosophical lens that you're using to help you understand what you're studying. When we looked at last week's discussion, our lecture, we said, what is research? And we talked about it being a scientific process of inquiry. Well, as I'm going in to make that inquiry, there's a philosophical lens that I'm using. There is something that is guiding my inquiry. And there isn't that one philosophical thought is better than the other. It depends on you, and it depends on what you're seeking, what knowledge you're trying to understand. how you intend, what lenses you intend to study something. So that is philosophical. So we have three major ones: positivist, interpretivist, and realist. Those three. But we also do have another one which combines positivism and interpretivism. So, but there are two major ones, that is positivists and interpretivists. These are two major ones that we have. We also then have two major approaches, deductive and inductive, and these are related to positivism and interpretivism. Then the interpretivism sometimes is referred to as phenomenology. I know they are big terms, but we shall cut them down to understand them clearly. Now, these two philosophical approaches lead us to the research strategies or research methods. Remember when we discussed last week, when we met on last Thursday, we said the research method is what gives the scientific, is the scientific method. Yeah. So the philosophical outlook you pick determines also the research method that is attached to it. Then we'll come to the subject of reliability and validity. We are collecting data and we want to validate our data, validate our findings and our analysis and conclusions, that they are valid and that they are reliable. Remember, you're presenting data that is supposed to be taken, you're presenting knowledge that is supposed to be taken as true. Then finally, we shall look at the ethical issues surrounding this research process. So one, we want to talk about the research process or the onion that surrounds this research process. So as you see on the screen, you have layers, layers of research that must be peeled through till we come to the final part of our research, which is data collection. We start with the research philosophy, and at the outer skirts, we have positivism and interpretivism or phenomenology. These are the two major philosophical lenses. Sorry about that. So these are the two major research approaches or research philosophies, which then lead to our research approach, then the research method, the time horizons, and eventually our data collection methods. We shall go through each layer bit by bit. So let's start with our research philosophy, positivism. Yeah, positivism. So this one, the role of the researcher is to be an objective analyst. Yeah, what I see is what is seen as reality or what is measurable. What is an observable social reality. Take an example. If I decide to find out, to do research to find out where the gender that leans towards IT studies in all institutions of higher learning. So I decide to go to Makerere University and I find out how many are female, how many are male enrolled into any IT program, IT or ICT related program, both at master's level and undergraduate and even diploma. I go to UCU, the same thing. I go to Chambogo University, the same thing. I come to Uganda Matters University, the same thing. I can even decide to go to other universities which provide certificate courses in IT-related programs, and I do the same thing. I get those statistics. And then I conclude and I say, depending on those statistics, I say, according to the results, it looks like this gender leans more towards IT-related programs than this other gender. Okay? That is the conclusion I come up. That is something, an observable social reality. And I'm depending on figures, numbers. So here, the researcher is independent and neither affects nor is affected by the research. So depending on the numbers, I come to that conclusion. Depending on those numbers, I come to that conclusion based on those numbers. So it is a highly structured methodology, highly structured. So it follows quantifiable observations that lend themselves to statistical analysis. So based on that, I come to a generalization. It's sort of like a law-like generalization. Now, this is quite different from the opposite, interpretivism or phenomenology. This style, this philosophy of research says life is complex. Life is complex. We cannot reduce it to numbers. This life is complex. We can't reduce it to numbers. I'll give you an example. I remember one time I was in my first degree. Remember I told you I did ethics and development studies. So in development studies, you take courses like culture and enculturation and things like that. So I remember in one of the classes, we talked about female circumcision. And I remember, and we talked about the evils, the inhumane part of it. But I remember one of our male students made a comment. He said, but to me, I think women enjoy this thing. And I remember we got so mad as women in the class. It was really a brave thing for him to say in a female-dominated class, to make a statement like that. But his point was, I mean, women themselves are the ones taking their daughters to be circumcised. So maybe they enjoy it. But of course, that is it's a very shallow conclusion to come to, because, like we said, life is complicated. Okay? Life is complicated. You cannot say something that severely mutilates a woman can be loved, can be enjoyed. So a research to study something like that, someone would say, no, it really requires an interpretivism style lens, saying that details must be discovered to truly understand what is going on. Truly understand what is going on. And then to say, to also say, we really must understand the mind, the thoughts of those who are participating in something like this. Now, in the opposite side, remember the example that I gave you earlier of positivism here, where I said if I wanted to find out which gender leads more to IT programs, is it male or female? A person, another researcher who's taking an interpretivism lens might say, no, can we truly understand those girls the females who have joined this program? What is it that motivates them? Why did they choose this program? And also ask the boys. So this person wants to understand the complexities of it all, not just looking at numbers. What is your motivation for picking this program over the other? What are your fears? And the person takes time to sit down and understand and get the entire complex picture. Okay? The entire complex picture. You might find there's a girl who was interested but maybe felt, this thing may be hard, the boys may laugh at me, maybe I'm not comfortable around boys, maybe my experience in high school wasn't so good around boys. I wanted to do IT, but I felt in this male-dominated world, something like that. But truly find out the reasons behind why something is the way it is. Okay? That is the phenomenology or interpretivism philosophy. Do we have any question at this point? Please ask questions and we try to understand anything that we don't understand. Let's understand things together. Do we have any question up to this point? Any question, comment? Do we have any question or comment? I assume everyone has understood. Okay, let's move on. So we have a third philosophical lens. This one came up as a result of combining the positivist mindset with the interpretivist mindset, a mixture of the two. We cannot completely disregard positivism simply because we want to understand. Neither can we completely disregard interpretivism because we feel we are not being objective. We're not being objective. The researcher is not being objective enough. Why? Think of a person who decides to sit down. Think of it this way. Imagine it is me who is doing research to understand the gender leaning of of students who take IT. Me being an IT profession myself, I may have, as I listen to more and more girls as they talk about it, I spend time with them. I may reach a point where they influence me or I influence them. In other words, my findings become subjective. Yeah. So a level of subjectivity comes in with interpretivism. That's one of the arguments against interpretivist philosophical outlook, that there's a danger of being subjective, our emotions getting involved. I'll give you a typical example. I remember I was listening, I'd gone for a workshop on research, and there was this young lady from Tanzania. She was doing a purely interpretivist research or qualitative research, where her subject area was just one couple. She was doing research on mixed marriages, how it especially affects the woman. Mixed marriages, I mean one race marrying another. I think even someone can do that in Uganda because we have many tribes, where you have one tribe marrying into another tribe. So she was doing research based on the female gender, how that affects. And unlike positivist, where you get so many, where you're focusing on numbers, with interpretivist, interpretivism, you're not looking at numbers, you're looking at how deep you go. So this lady spent a whole year with this couple, specifically the woman, trying to understand this woman's reality. So you can imagine, after a whole year of being together, they became friends. So some level of subjectivity is involved in that. So in essence, it may or may not affect, either positively or negatively, the findings. But then also, on the other hand, the positivist side, just looking at numbers doesn't give a total picture. Just numbers themselves don't give a total picture. So there are those researchers who decide to combine the two. So you'll hear someone say they are doing a mixed method research, where they are going to employ from both sides, both the positivism and interpretivism. Do you have any questions so far? Do you have any question? You know, sometimes when you keep quiet, maybe I think you may be offline, or I may be not clear. Am I clear?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Okay. So we come to our research approaches. So the research approaches are related to the philosophical outlooks that we're looking at. We have the first one, deductive. So deductive is first developed from theory and then hypothesis. Then we have inductive, which is where we first collect data, which then goes on to build theory. So let me start with deductive. So we start by deducing a hypothesis from a theory. Yeah. Very, very positivist in mindset. Do you remember last week I mentioned the term theory? Remember last week I talked about term? Does anyone remember? If someone can just Google briefly. Sorry, first give me a second, just give me a minute. Sorry, apologies. Let's continue. Can someone just quickly Google term theory? Can someone just quickly Google term theory and tell us what it is, what you find out? Can you quickly just Google and find out just term theory? Someone tell us what it is.
A theory is a well-organized set of concepts, definitions, prepositions that explain or predict a phenomenon
Sorry, that explain what? Sorry, I can't hear you clearly.
evidence and systematic observation.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
A well-organized set of concepts, definitions, and prepositions that explains or predicts a phenomenon
Yes.
based on evidence and systematic observation.
Okay. Sorry, Mark, these predictions are in which area?
In prepositions,
Prepositions for what? Preposition, we're hearing terms like predictions, prepositions.
the term is predicts, not predictions.
It predicts, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So we are hearing things like a prediction. Let us say, can someone give an example of a prediction? A scientifically based prediction. I may not think of a scientifically based prediction. We're not talking about this thing into the future, no, nothing like that. Any kind of prediction. Hello? Is anyone there? Hey, you guys, do you expect that I'm the only one who's going to talk in this class? Hmm? Should I pick on someone to give me an answer? Okay, I'm going to ask Kizito Waswa. Can you give us a scientifically based prediction? Anything that you can think of. The things that we know about scientific predictions. Kizito, are you there? Waswa, are you there?
Yes, madam, I'm there.
So, Eric, you have your hand up. Yes, Eric?
Yes, so an example may be the forecast of rain being able to rain, that the scientist can predict that the rain may have chance of raining later today. That's
Now,
it.
those guys who make those predictions, there must be some variables they consider before they can predict it's going to rain. Not so?
Yes.
Yeah, so there must be some variables. Take another example. When you go to hospital, you're sick. What variables does a doctor consider before he or she carries out tests on you? Leave aside the diagnosis. Yes, Sise.
Madam, I think symptoms and like symptoms of patient.
Yes, the symptoms. The symptoms determine what prediction. Like, for example, they may ask, do you have temperature? Are you feeling general body weakness? Do you have appetite? Things like that. So based on that, they'll say, let's test for malaria, let's test for typhoid and things like that. They will not automatically jump to, let's test for cancer. So there are certain variables, and they do this because these things have been researched on for a very long time. So they've developed a theory around it. Okay, there are certain what they based on that theory, they can create what we call a hypothesis, a statement saying, because of this and this, most likely this patient has this. So let's go ahead and test, and then the results will confirm whether it's true or not true. So likewise, TAM is another theory. And in full, the person who researched on TAM, what is the full, it's an abbreviation. What is it in full? What is, it's an abbreviation. What is TAM in full? Can you check?
It is a technology acceptance model.
Technology acceptance model. So it's a theory that was developed specifically for the ICTIS sector. Yeah, and it is there to help determine or predict if a technology is going to be adopted or not, or even determine why a technology has not been adopted or not. So as a theory, take time and read through, and there are many other theories which were developed specifically to look at adoption. Hello, is there someone? No, I don't think so. So specifically, it was developed for those purposes. So as a theory, it also has some statements or predictions it makes from which a hypothesis or a statement can be made. So I'll give you an example. This particular theory states that a technology is going to be adopted if it is perceived to be easy to use and also perceived to be useful. Okay? That users will adopt a technology if they perceive it to be easy to use and also useful. That theory even goes further and makes a statement and says that a female user will adopt a technology if they consider it to be easy to use, is more likely to adopt it. And then it goes on further and also hypothesizes that a male user is more likely to adopt a technology if they perceive it to be useful. Those are hypotheses or statements this theory makes. So therefore, a researcher like you, just like a doctor would go ahead and, based on their theories of diseases and so on and so forth, tropical diseases. It's the same thing also with you as a profession. You can decide to say, let me test this theory. Okay? Let me test this theory. So based on that, this is where deductive research comes to a hypothesis. So that statement, can somebody just just quickly Google and find out what the word hypothesis means? I know we have something on the screen, but let's look at other definitions. What hypothesis means.
Hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a phenomenon that is a central component of scientific method.
So repeat it again, please. Just repeat it.
Hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a phenomenon that is central component of the scientific method.
A proposed explanation. It's proposing. So those statements I've just made from term, which say a female user is more likely, it's proposing. It's not the gospel truth. It's proposing. So it begs to be tested. Okay? So as you can see, it says it's expressing the hypothesis in operational terms, proposing relationship between two specific variables. So you see what term is saying, a female user is more likely. A female user is more likely to adopt because something is perceived to be easy to use. Somebody can decide to put that to the test. Is that the case? Okay. In those articles I've uploaded in Moodle, we have such, one of those articles has such a case, and you can read through and see. Not necessarily in terms of term theory, this one is using other theories, but it is something you can look at. Yeah? It also gives a perfect example of deductive research approach and the hypothesis. So the hypothesis is operational. It's either experiment or other. So like we said, it begs to be examined to see the specific outcome of the inquiry. Is it true? This is what is going to come out. So in the end, you may end up modifying the theory or confirming the theory. Okay? Thus far, are we together? So far, are we together?
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Okay, let's move on to, here we have an example of deductive reasoning, but we shall leave it for now because I think we have explained enough. Now we come to inductive research. So inductive research is the opposite. Just like positivism and interpretivism are different, so also is this case. So interpretivism is starting with examining the specific problem. Why is something happening? Yeah? Why is something happening? Unlike deductive, which immediately comes up with a proposition, this one is seeking to understand. Okay? Is seeking to understand. Then we make sense of something after data is analyzed and then formulation of theory. So it is quite opposite from deductive. So it first seeks to understand. So I gave you examples of female circumcision. So female circumcision is something that begs to be understood. You cannot make a generalized, remember like I told you, my classmate who said, it seems women enjoy this thing. That is, you cannot make a conclusion like that. With a phenomena that seeks to be understood. Now, you will also find in one of the articles I have attached, which gives you an example of that inductive approach. Okay? So which approach should I select? Well, one depends on what you're researching on. How much information is out there on the topic you want to focus on? How much information exists? So that's where the first point of the wealth of literature. You remember when we met on Thursday, we talked about where does research begin? It begins from reading. The key point about research is reading. That cannot be underestimated. So depending on the wealth of research, if this is something that has been researched a lot, like for example, ICT adoption, you'll find a lot of theories out there. Then there are other things that are not yet researched, not yet understood. Maybe ICT in a developing context, this has not yet been understood clearly. 2, time. Deductive approach is normally quicker. Inductive approach needs time. But however, I also want to state that most of the time our research in ICT is rarely inductive. Deductive, sorry. We normally opt for combining the two. But I gave you an example of the research I did which was quite inductive. I collected data over a space of 2 years. So it depends again. But undergraduate level, I wouldn't expect you to take that much time. Then the risk. Normally, it is said deductive approach is of a lower risk. However, I want to state in the reality, that's not the case. Most of the time with deductive approach, it involves the researcher sending out a questionnaire and then getting a response. I did observe, just for reality check, I have observed someone who sent out a questionnaire and barely got back responses. So remember, deductive approach or positivism depends on the number of responses you get. So the less your responses, the lower your chances of generalizing or making a conclusion. Inductive research, there is the fear that there's no theory that will emerge because it's really going deep, and someone sometimes going too deep may end up getting lost. Then there's the question of audience. Who makes the research? Okay? Who will mark or who will pay for the research? Some people like to focus more on interpretivism or inductive than deductive. So again, it depends. Why is the approach important? Is it possible to combine approaches? Which approach should I adopt? Those are all important questions to consider. Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Do you have any questions so far? Remember, this is a central part of research. If we have not understood something, okay, I'll start by posing a question to each of you. Have any of you done an IT project so far? I presume by the time you're in second year, there's some kind of IT project that you've done. Hello?
Madam, we haven't done any IT project yet.
You've not done anything? No web development, nothing? Have you done any programming course unit?
Yes, madam, but we stopped at web development in year 1.
You stopped at web development?
Yeah.
You've never done any project?
Yes, madam.
You guys, eh? What programming languages have you done?
We did C++, even Java, and this semester we are doing, I think, it's PHP.
Okay. And when you are doing these, like when you did Java, did you do any project, even in groups? Did you develop anything? Let me just pick on Java because it's my favorite programming language.
No, madam.
Oh, you didn't develop anything?
Yes.
Okay, did you develop a website at least? I see Eric's hand is up. Eric?
Actually, but madam, we did websites. We even in C++ we did some projects carrying out calculations or that.
Okay. Did you ever do anything that was reality based? For example, if you're developing a website or any program, did you ever do anything reality based? Like, let me give an example, doing something for the library.
No, we did something like a website that for student registrations for a school. That's what we did.
For student registration. Did you go to the school first to visit it?
No, actually, we tried for our university. We are building for our university.
So you're building for university. I'm sure you didn't just develop something from the blue. Did you interact with anyone to find out business processes, how things go?
No, actually.
So you are just developing something from your head?
Yes, we're developing something we saw in our university, copying from the university website, and did what we did.
Oh, but you guys, I think there is something there that needs to be addressed. You need to first have an understanding, because we don't develop systems from the air. We must have an understanding of who the user is and what the user wants. So if, let's say, when you're developing something for the university, you would be going to, for instance, if it's for results, you'd be going to registry or to the faculty administrators to find out how that process goes through, what challenges do they experience, and so on and so forth. Yeah? This would be one of the first stages you would come to understand the subject of data collection. Okay? So let's go through a scenario. So let us say, and I'm going to pick on someone. This time, let me go to a lady. Let me go to Margaret. And anyone else can come in and give Margaret some support. Margaret, let us say you are going to build a site for a school, a website for a school. What would be your first step?
I beg your pardon, madam.
Say you are going to build a website for a school. What would be your first step? Margaret, is there another device that is connecting, that is nearby you? I think that's where the echo is coming from.
Fellow. But I think we've collected it.
Okay. So what would be your first step?
Madam, I first plan.
In the planning, what would you do in the planning stage?
You first decide what the website is or is about
Oh, what it
and
is
what
about.
it will contain. Plan.
Okay.
Yes,
Then what would be the next step be? This time we're not talking about research. Let's think about
like
ourselves as
what the name of
the name of, sorry?
Madam, the name of the school,
Okay.
what are you think about the students, the parents, the teachers.
You think about them in terms of what?
But I think, Madam, all those are in plan.
Sorry, you've fallen
Sorry?
off a bit. You're saying?
Madam, I'm saying that you think about the
Sorry, you're breaking up a bit.
as the main people phone.
The main stakeholders. Okay, let me now move to Ahabwe. Ahabwe, going from Margaret's starting point, she's talking about the stakeholders. She thinks about the name of the school, the stakeholders. What would be your next step after identifying those stakeholders? What would be the next step, Ahabwe?
Madam, I think the next step is start the layout and the structure.
Okay. Before we start building this site, don't you think there is a necessity to go and talk to these stakeholders? Because you want to build for them a website. The idea shouldn't come from you. Now should it come from them?
I think we first go there and seek for the permission that we are going to design a website for their school. Then after they grant us permission, then after granting us permission, we start designing.
Okay. Now, before we start designing think about it this way. Imagine I'm a tailor and I want to make a dress for Ahabwe. Do I just start making it without first asking her what does she want?
No, madam.
Yes. Davis, your hand is up.
I think what you're saying is that you go to these stakeholders, the people that are going to use the system, and you try to understand how will they interact with the system. If it is, for example, it is a report card system, you understand who will add marks, who will maybe sign or add remarks like that. And after you do or you put it in practice.
Yes, you're basically trying to understand their business processes. How do they already handle the cards themselves before the system? If it is a website, the website is representing them to the public, to the world. The first thing is, what do they want representing them? What is their vision and mission? How do they want to be seen? How do they want the world to see them, to understand them? What is the school's brand? That kind of thing. You're understanding something from their perspective, which you then represent into a website. Now, the question is, if you are the one building the website or the card system, as Derek was pointing out, how would you approach this? Would it be in an deductive approach or inductive? Or would you combine? Which approach would you use? That would be the question. I'm not asking you to give me an answer now, but how would I begin to approach this? And is it, first of all, there's understanding the process. There's understanding the school, what is its mission and vision? How do they want to be represented out there? Then I can come to the other basic things. What colors do they want? I'm not the one who should pick the colors. Just like how I was telling you, if I'm the tailor making your dress, is it me to pick out your colors? No. It's what you want. So it's you who's to let me know. So I'm trying to introduce to you the mindset of the philosophical approach, how I would begin to take this project on. Have we understood so far?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So I would suggest we stop the lecture here. Please, please. Sorry, Nasasira, you are saying something?
Yeah, like I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What if the school, like, what if the school chooses me, then you come and make a website for our school? Then I have to get the concept, what, or
No,
I just begin the steps.
Now, this time you don't get the concept because they have already given you permission. Now the process now is, what do they want? Now you begin with the question of what do they want? So you identify the key people. For me, if it were me, I would identify the key people. Sometimes some people choose to go with everyone, but you may start with whoever maybe is concerned with marketing. You start with the head teacher. If there's a director of the school or directors, you go to them. You try to understand what is the school about. Okay, a website. Let me give you an example. A website is essentially something that is for the public. It is telling the what it. Let me give an example. When I get out of the house, there is what I wear when I'm in the house. There's what I wear when I'm in my bedroom. Then there's what I wear when I go outside in the chambers. Then there's what I wear when I've come to you, my students. What I wear, it depends on what I want the public, what I want to be seen publicly. Okay, so I'm not going to come to my class in my underwear. Now will I? I'm showing private things that should be private about me. Not so. So a website is what information that needs to be made public. The school that needs to make public. So one is their image. What image does the school want to portray? Do they want to portray a learner-friendly environment? Do they want to portray an environment that is all-inclusive? Do they want to portray a community that is religious, that has religion as its backup, as its encompassing? What is it they want to portray about themselves? Okay. If let us say you went to UCU, what is the first thing UCU may want to portray about itself? Maybe they want to portray themselves as Christians, a Bible-based university. Makerere University may want to portray itself as a research giant. Chambogo University may want to focus on its engineering side. So the question is, what does the school, first of all, what image does it want to first give about itself? That's the first thing. Two, what information do they want to make public? Maybe do they want people to focus on the directors, or they want to focus on who the head teacher is? Maybe the strength is in the head teacher, not the directors, not the owners. Do they want to portray their achievements? Maybe they have won in the high school football league, or that they are top performers in the district or even at national level. What is it they want to portray? So that is what I would start with by going out to understand. So based on that, I start my design process. Then if it were me, then once I start with my first prototype, I go back and show them, what do you think about this? Then they will give me feedback. There may be strong emotions attached. No, this totally misrepresents us. These colors are not for our religion. These colors are not for our school. These colors show us as being too soft. We want to be seen as very strict and very disciplinarian. You get what I'm saying, eh? Do you understand so far what I'm referring to? The point I'm trying to bring out?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. I hope for everyone else, what I'm trying to bring out is the approach for me now as a person. Another person may decide, I'm going to design this. I'm going to start by designing something generic, what a normal school does. I maybe first do some research. I design something, I take it to them as a prototype. Then I get feedback. Either I get a questionnaire and they tick. I like this, I don't like this, like that. Eh? So that one is deductive in thinking. Eh? That's a different approach. That's another designer's approach. Okay? So far, are we together?
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
So I was thinking we stop there for today and we meet next Thursday after you've read through those articles that I have put up. And we shall first begin by discussing those articles. So please take time and read them. I hope, let's have a very, very interactive class. The more we discuss, the more we internalize.